So hello, everyone. So this session's non-data has been stated. So it's all about RoboHelp and adding content into your project. So I just want to go through real quick about me. I write books for a living. I met several books on RoboHelp. And Stephen, you're absolutely right, going all the way back to the very beginning of RoboHelp, written books on every version going back 20 some odd years. And I'm a certified online trainer, certified technical trainer. Spent a bit of time in the Coast Guard years ago. And what I do now more than anything else is I train full time, but I really love writing these books. And what you see on screen right now is my latest RoboHelp book, the 2020 version, and it's for Mac and PC. And I have to tell you that Matt, you probably remember the session that I attended years ago, where you had to get up on stage and give predictions on RoboHelp. And
Oh
and
yeah.
one of the things I said was, and I got booed off stage for this. I said that I predict in 10 years RoboHelp will be on the Macintosh, which I had no business saying because, come on, RoboHelp on the Mac. FrameMaker had been on the Mac, but not RoboHelp. And people laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. Well, I'm here to tell you
There you go.
that RoboHelp is available for the Mac. So I don't know what I win, but I win something for that. So I'll actually be using RoboHelp for the Mac today in honor of RoboHelp being available for the Mac. So that's the version I'll be using. But what I show you will work Mac or PC, it doesn't matter. So it's RoboHelp 2020. And so basically my agenda for our time together, what is it, about 45 minutes, give or take, is going to be creating topics from scratch. If you want to write them directly in RoboHelp, just, type to your heart's content if you want to do that, although I'm not going to do a lot of typing here. I'm going to show you how to import the content, and some of the more popular, although really, if you think about it, importing from HTML isn't what I see most people doing. When people bring in content into RoboHelp, they're really using Microsoft Word and importing links to PDFs. So I want to show that. And if you're going to bring content in from Word, there's a couple of things to think about. So I'll bring up a Word document, I'll play around with it, and I'll bring it into RoboHelp just to show you how that works. And linking to Word docs, that's probably the biggest thing that I see people doing, especially if you've got documentation that is living and breathing, meaning that there are people making changes to it all the time. I don't think you want to be importing the content, because if that Word document, the content in there needs to change, and there's a lot of changes, that means that you are the one responsible for making those changes. And how awesome would it be to link from Microsoft Word, have a content expert make the changes to the Word document over a server, and then RoboHelp tells you, hey, I've got some changes. And then you just update and boom, the changes come in. To me, that seems like a better workflow. I've shown a couple of large customers how to do that, and it really works out for them. With their SOPs, for instance, it's a real good reason to link back to those sources. And that's it. I don't have a PowerPoint deck for you to kind of go through and jabber at you for 40 minutes. I'm actually going to take a big risk here and do this actually in the tool. So I did update my Mac to Big Sur most recently, and did require an update to RoboHelp, but that was pretty painless. So let me show you. I'm not kidding. I actually am going to be in RoboHelp if it cooperates and pops up. And I tend to fly without a safety net. So they say there's always a risk when you do software training that the software can misbehave. So we're just going to go for it, and hopefully RoboHelp behaves. So I'm going to start absolutely from scratch. I have no pre-canned content as far as RoboHelp goes. I do have some HTML files and some Word documents to bring in, so I don't have to type that much. But here I am making a new project, and I'm just going to call this RoboHelp Data, even though this is not a data session. And I'm just saving it right to the default location on my computer, right to my documents folder inside my RoboHelp projects, and I'll just click create. And right off the bat, you do get this first topic in RoboHelp, which I can just edit and hello, just type anything, right? So this is a topic that already existed in RoboHelp. Okay, so right away you get this first topic, so that's cool. And if you want to change the information about that first topic, you can see it exists here in my contents panel. I'm going to right click it and bring up its properties, and I can give it a title saying hello, and I can give it the file name. These are all HTML files of hello.htm, and that's it. So now I've got my first topic all squared away, okay? Now, I want to create more topics. So one way to do that, if you want to make your topics right here inside RoboHelp, and I'm going to make this project as much as I can in honor of some of the attendees. Like I'm looking at my attendee list. I see Debbie, I see Bianca, I see Marianne. So I'm going to make a topic by right-clicking New Topic, and I'm going to call this one Debbie. How you doing, Debbie? I'll click OK. I'll click Create, and I'll just type Debbie. I meant to type it down here. Debbie was the first person I saw on the attendee list. I don't know if you were intended to be called out here, Debbie, but there you have it. So you're in the presentation now, for better or worse. We'll say it's for better. Now, that was one way to make a topic. You right click, you choose new, you choose topic. My favorite, Command T, Control T if you're on a PC. But remember, I am using the Macintosh version of RoboHelp for this session. And somebody else that's in my attendee list, just looking at the list there, Marianne, how you doing? Marianne Sweeney. I see your last name, so I'll use it.
RoboHelp Improv.
Thank you. That's what I'm doing, Matt. Marianne Sweeney, and I'll click Create. And Marianne, I'm going to type in here, what a great person. Not a good idea to do improv. Go horribly wrong, but I'm going to do it. She is from Hawaii. Look, I don't know where you're from, Marianne. I'm making this up, so go with me on that. Okay, thank you. And if you all see in the chat pod where she's really from, that'd be great. But oh, by the way, I'm based in Cincinnati, Ohio. So if there's any Ohioans, you can shout out. So I'm just outside of Cincinnati. Okay, so there is a topic. Now I got some topics I want to bring in, and unfortunately they got nothing to do with Debbie and nothing to do with Marianne. I am going to save. It is a good idea when you're working in RoboHelp to save all the time, because there is a database happening in the background here. And sometimes if you don't save, changes you've made to your project don't necessarily get updated in the RoboHelp project file. So Command S to save. If you want to go old school, you click the little icon that I always am curious. But when's the last time any of you saw a 3.5-inch floppy disk? But okay, decidedly old tech. You click the Save All icon. So I just ignore that icon and press Command S whenever I want to. Now, I want to import some HTML files. Now, I do have these as canned files. So I'm going to right-click inside my contents panel, and I'm going to choose Import, and I'm going to choose HTML topic. And I'm going to navigate to a folder where I just happen to have some files set up. And I'm going to select this one called Absence, and I'm going to click Open, and the HTML file is going to come in, and there it is, Absentee Policy. So I can now double-click it, and I can go from here and can assign my styles. If I want the topic to look a certain way, go to my Styles panel here. Actually, assign a cascading style sheet would be the first way to go, so I'll go with default.css. You see how easy it is to format that text. Then I'll click inside the headline, and I'll go to my styles, and I'll choose heading 1. Boom, there you go. So incredibly simple to work with cascading style sheets in this tool, to bring in this content, and if the formatting wasn't assigned, you see how easy it is to do it. Now, that was one HTML file. Another way to bring in is to bring in multiple files. So I'll right-click, import HTML topic again, because I'm unafraid. And I'm going to select this one called conflict, this one called overtime, payroll, pets. Look at me going absolutely crazy here. I'm going to select purpose and HTML and term. These are all HTML files I happen to just find laying around, and I'll click open. Let's hope it all goes well. And here comes all these files. And once again, I open up a topic. I don't like the way it's formatted, so simple enough. I come over here to my topics panel, and I apply a cascading style sheet. I'll choose default.css, and then from there, I can assign heading 1s, really, really simple. Heading 1 there, this one could be a heading 2. This one can be a heading too. So you see, make quick work out of working with this content, assuming that I got the content from a subject matter expert, or maybe I typed it in another authoring tool, maybe in Notepad, maybe in any authoring tool that does HTML. So far, you can see my project is growing here. I have created some of the topics from scratch. One of them I got by default when I started the project. That was simple. I made a couple of others, and then the others I imported from HTML. So making the topics, importing HTML, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and save my project. So I want to now bring in a project from our friend Microsoft Word. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to import Word document. And I'm going to load up a document here in this top field in the Word document area. So it says select a Word document. So I'm going to go grab one. And I'm going to select one called the Learning Center. So I'll click open, and it's loaded up that document. And what I'm going to do now, and this is kind of an interesting thing to take care of, it wants to know, how do I want to split the document up? Well, I'm going to tell it to, every time it sees a heading level 1, go ahead and split it into topics. So if there's only one heading 1, I'll get just one topic. I'll click import. And here is another topic that came in from the Microsoft Word document. Now, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to go totally without a net and not have an existing topic and launch Microsoft Word, which I'm doing right now. It said verifying, I don't know why, because, you know, it's a software class, and so things never go right when it's a software class. So there's Microsoft Word. I'll make a blank document. And all right, so now I've got this Microsoft Word document, and I'm looking in my attendee list here. That's why you see me looking off to the right. I've got a couple of different monitors, and I see Bernice. So I'm just typing the word Bernice, and I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to say Bernice loves to eat. I'm trying to guess, Bernice, what you would love to eat for breakfast. I'm going to say you like to eat Captain Crunch for breakfast. Did I get it right? What do you think? Is that the best breakfast cereal you've ever had? So there's Bernice. We also are joined by Fred. Fred, how you doing, buddy? And Fred loves to vacation in Aruba. I hope that's true, Fred, that you like to vacation in Aruba, because if it's not, I'm not gonna deviate from that. Oh, we got to talk to Sam Riley. So let's talk to you, Sam. And let's see, is really awesome at playing golf. Club Sam, I'm awesome at golf too. Matt can tell you how awesome I am at golf. It's true. All right, so I got Bernice, I got Fred, I got Sam. I'm going to go here with Bernice, and I'm going to go to my styles, and I'm going to choose heading 1 for Bernice. I'm going to come over here to Fred and choose heading 1. And I'm going to come over to Sam and choose heading 1. And I'm going to save this document, and I'm going to call this no net, because, I'm not working with a net here. And I'm going to save this just into my RoboHelp Data folder, which I have on my computer. And I've got a topic, content, and I'll click save. So you want to talk about working without a net? That's working without a net. So I got these 3 documents in here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and quit or close out of Word. I'll come back into Word later. Okay, now I'm in RoboHelp, and I want to bring that Microsoft Word document in. So I'm going to go ahead and right click. I'm going to choose import. I'm going to choose Word, and I'm going to search for that Word document. Now, I believe I called it no net, and there it is. That's the file I just created, and I'm going to click open. Now, as I bring the document in, remember now that I use that heading level 1 3 times for a couple of our attendees here in your honor. So I'm going to go to where it says select a new topic from style, and I'm going to choose heading 1 from that list. And again, this was a brand new document. It's never existed before today. So I'm going to go ahead and click import. And what I'm hoping we're going to see is Sam. Look at that. There you are, Sam. Who else did we bring in here? Fred? Yeah. And Bernice? About the Captain Crunch, Bernice? There you have it. Now, again, I can assign cascading style sheet to any of these topics, assign heading ones. But what I love about this, bringing in that Microsoft Word document, these topics are formatted with heading one already. They've already been split into topics. It's all good to go. All I had to do was bring them into RoboHelp, and I got this awesome content. And of course, your content isn't just going to be one line, one and done sentences, right? It's going to be pretty fleshed out content. Now, I love that. I'm going to go back into Microsoft Word because I want to show you something really cool here, okay? So let me go into Microsoft Word. I'm going to make another blank document. Again, I'm flying without a net here. So I'm looking in my attendee list, and let's get somebody else here. Kimberly Burton. Kimberly. I got Kimberly spelled right. All right, so Kimberly loves to work in MS Word, but probably did not know this trick. Hang on to your hat, everyone. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select heading one again, because when this comes into Microsoft Word, I want it to split. And you know what, Kimberly, this shouldn't all be about you. Let's go with Charles. Charles Andrews, talking to you, sir. Right? And I'm say Charles also uses Word, but didn't know this. This will make it worth the price of admission coming into this conference. Did you pay for this conference? Anyway, this will make it worth the price of admission. So I'm going to select Charles here. Charles, you're going to be a heading one too. Now, if you're going to bring in Microsoft Word content into RoboHelp, like I've done a couple of times already for you guys, what I recommend that you do is just rely on Microsoft Word styles. And then when this content comes into RoboHelp, the styles work beautifully. If you're going to use styles, go with styles. But here I am now. I just made the word work bold, Command B on the Mac, right? Probably I made it bold, italic, and underline, right? You see me doing this. The word word here, bold, italic, underline, and I'm going to make it bigger. Look at that, going absolutely crazy. The word Charles, that's Command Shift, comma, 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 to make it smaller. Don't say chameleon, comma, chameleon. Don't say that. Just smaller. That was Command Shift, comma, 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 right? So really, Kimberly, what I'm doing here is I'm going crazy with the formatting, right? This is what we would call a hot mess. If you bring this into RoboHelp, this is how it's going to format, and you're going to have a devil of a time removing all this formatting from someone who started to follow your styles and now is not following your styles. So here's a little trick for you, okay? You select all. PC or Mac, doesn't matter. Command A, right? And watch the birdie here. Did you all see that formatting just get cleaned up? Did you see that? Anybody impressed with that? I know I'm impressed. I love this key combination. On your keyboard. And you can try this in your version of Microsoft Word right now and amaze all your friends. You select all. Let me undo this. This is how it looked, right? Control spacebar. Mac or PC. Strips out all the manual overrides and puts that text back to the pure styles. And the reason that's important, now when this comes in to RoboHelp, it's going to be super clean. So you can have clean content and not have to worry about stripping out dev tags, right? So don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'll call this import me to, right? And I'll click save. Just a regular Word document. I'll close out of Microsoft Word. I'm going to right click. I'm going to choose import. Well, I tried. I missed. The Word document. I'm going to go load up that import me to, right? There it is. Click open. Now, does anybody know what I need to do? Can you recall? And Matt, you can tell me if anybody puts in the chat pod. What I need to do to make sure when this content comes in, I end up with topics forever heading one. Anybody remember what I did? Anybody saying anything?
I'm looking.
Is anybody still in my presentation, Matt? Did they all leave? Is it just me and you
Bueller,
left?
Bueller.
You, yeah, by the way, by saying that, you dated yourself with like a 30-year-old movie, Matt. Thanks a lot. Uh,
But it's
Most of
still
this
funny.
audience has no idea. So, does anybody know what I need to do to make sure when this Word document comes in, I get as many topics as possible? Because if I don't do this, I'm going to end up with just one topic, which I don't want. Anybody? Anybody?
Gwen is suggesting to do something special with the heading one.
That was Gwen. Matt, we'd like to award cash prizes for people who answer the question correctly, although it wasn't very specific, it was correctly. So I'd like you to award her $50 and let Stephen know he has to pay that. Okay?
That's 50 icon logic dollars.
No. I'm far too cheap for that. Excuse me. Excuse me. Please keep me out of this. I was just trying to volunteer Stephen. So Gwen, you're going to get credit for this, even though you weren't 100% specific. We're going to award you 50 Stephen bucks. It was heading one. That is absolutely correct. Basically, tell RoboHelp you want to split this based on style. So when you bring in FrameMaker content, when you bring in Word content, it's going to behave the same. You can bring in basically the heading content. So I'm going to go ahead and click import. So there's Charles. How you doing, buddy? There's Charles. Charles is there. The text is clean. I've already forgotten who the people were that I brought in. Was it Marianne? I can't remember who came in with this burst. But the bottom line is the content comes in and it comes in clean. And I know it's clean because, look, RoboHelp has done a wonderful job with the HTML tags versus what they used to be. Years ago, and those of you that have used RoboHelp back in the day, the tags used to be called, I don't even know what it was, the Kadav tag. I don't even know what that was. But now it's just pure HTML, and you can look at the tags here, and you can see really, really clean. And if you really want to see how clean this content is, you can go here into the source code, and you can see if that's not clean, I don't know what is. But if I hadn't pressed Control Spacebar to wipe out the formatting, you would see just a hot mess surrounding the text where I see Marianne Sweeney right now in my code.
Yeah, 12 and 13 to be about 10 lines.
Yeah. So you see just how clean this is. So Control Spacebar, wipe out all that overrides, and just use the styles. You're going to be a lot happier human being if you do that. Okay. Now, so here's all this wonderful content, but that still hasn't addressed the issue. What if your content is a moving target, meaning standard operating procedure? So back I go to Microsoft Word, and this time I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open a file that's on my desktop here, and it's called Holiday Schedule, okay? And you can see what this document looks like. It's very clean content, and I want you to pretend this is a massive document, okay? Now, it's only got one heading one in here. That's the Super Simplistic Solutions Holiday Schedule. This is a completely made-up schedule, so don't take it serious. None of this content's real. It's just based on fantasy. So I'm not even sure if the actual dates for any of these holidays are spot on. I mean, some of them are, but pure coincidence. So I'm going to go ahead and close the document, okay? Now, in RoboHelp, what I'm going to do, something very specific. What I've been doing up till this point is I've been right-clicking and importing, and I've been going to Word document, okay? This time what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose link and link to a file, okay? And I'm going to link to that holiday schedule document, which I just opened, okay? Now, you're probably noticing something a little bit different about the Microsoft Word document now that I've linked. It's got a little arrow to the left of it. Now, that's going to be something important that I want you all to pay attention to. Remember, if you answer questions correctly in this class, Stephen sends you money, just sends it to you. So it's to your benefit to answer all the questions correctly. And I must tell you, if you do win anything here, Stephen's going to pay you in Stephen bucks. And I don't know what the exchange rate is between Stephen world and your world. You might actually owe him money before we're done. So don't spend it is what I'm getting at. Now, that holiday schedule document, I'm going to right click it and I'm going to pull up its, I'm going to edit the settings here. And you see that once again, I can tell it to split based on heading one, which I'm doing. I'll save these settings. That still has not led to any content yet. It's still talking to that Microsoft Word document. But when I right click, there is an option here, create update topics. Okay, so I'm going to click create update topics. And if you're paying attention and looking at my list of all these assets, which are getting quite long now, you can see that I've got a folder called holiday schedule, and I'm going to click it. And there is my document that just came in from Microsoft Word. And there it is. Nice. Love that. Talking to that Microsoft Word document, but at its core, this is absolutely no different than just importing it. So why did I show it to you? I showed it to you because it's cool. Not that I got the content. Yes, I love that I get the content, but what happens next? So I'm going to go back to Microsoft Word, and I want you all to pretend that that I am the subject matter expert, and I'm opening up that holiday schedule document over a server. I have no idea that my friend Bob is using the Word document in RoboHelp. I just know that I'm supposed to keep this document up to date. So I'm going to highlight these dates here, and I'm going to apply bullets. Okay, boom. Let me show you another Microsoft Word shortcut, because I think you all were digging that. So you highlight some more text, and whatever you did last, if you press Command Y, Control Y on the PC, Command Y on the Mac, you repeat what you just did. So I don't have to go up here and click the bullet list tool. I can highlight some stuff, and I can press Command Y. All right, you digging that? So the key shortcuts that you learned here, Control Spacebar to wipe out formatting, right, and just follow the style, and Command Y, Control Y to repeat what you just did. Okay. Now, not only am I applying bullets here, I want to add some holidays. So after January 18th, Mr. King's birthday, the special day, I'm going to say March 6th. That's Kevin Day. That's Kevin Day. We all know we should celebrate Kevin Day. And in 2022, let's see, February 22nd, that is, hold on, I'm looking in the attendee list. Hold on. Everybody calm down. Joan. This is Joan Kickert Day, right? Did I misspell your name? Kickert. Take it easy. I fixed it. And then October 11th in 2023, because, Joan and I should be the only ones having fun. We also have in the list of attendees, because you are wonderful to come here, we have Liz Wald. How you doing, Liz? Liz Wald-Day, right? There you have it. I spelled her name correctly. Yes, I did. W-A-L-D. All right, so I'm going to save the Word document. Now, in this scenario, I just want you to keep in mind that my role here was I was the subject matter expert. I'm just putting the content out here. And listen, I had a customer of mine, a big pharmaceutical company doing RoboHelp, the RoboHelp project, and a lot of the content that this poor young lady was getting who managed the help system, standard operating procedures. And you're talking, it wasn't just one Word document changing a few times a week. They were hundreds of documents changing thousands of times a week. No way that this person could keep up with it. So I showed them how to import by linking, changed everything. So let me go ahead and close out of the Word document. So I'm going to save my RoboHelp project. And is anybody noticing anything at all, anything different about my contents in RoboHelp? Because I'm looking in the topic and I don't see my day in here. I don't see no, I don't see it. Look, there's no Kevin. Matt, is anybody saying anything about a change that has happened in my contents panel? Has anybody said anything? Anybody paying attention?
They're really interested in that bottle of whiskey you got on your desk.
What? That's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing. I'm so sorry. But listen, is anybody saying anything that they're noticing? And maybe the screen's too tiny. Oh, it's not too tiny. I'm looking at my other monitor. It's not too tiny. Is anybody noticing anything at all? Anything at all? Anybody noticing?
That big red arrow they keep mentioning.
They're mentioning the red arrow. All right. So I don't know. I pay attention to that. It looks like an alert icon to me. So I right click and I choose create Now I'm not creating topics, I'm updating, right? So it's either way. If it didn't exist, it would create it. If it does exist, I'm hoping it's going to update it. I don't know.
Look at
Did it
that.
work? Did it work? I don't know. And listen, this is a risk for me, people. I'm very terrified. Whenever you do software, it could just go kablooey. Matt, you know this as well as I do. We've been to conferences before where I've actually had to have Matt come up on stage and use his computer because mine crudded out for the day, right? So that worked beautifully. And I got to tell you, this has worked for that large pharmaceutical company absolutely perfect. They don't use data. They don't use anything like that. They are just linking to those standard operating procedures, their Word documents on a server, and it is beauteous. So let me just tell you all that when I am creating my content, I have to show this to you. It is not necessarily worrying about the content. It's about the output. What I really just love about the new-ish RoboHelp is this frameless output. The output that I have used exclusively because my clients really like the way it looked has been WebHelp. WebHelp, the problem with WebHelp has always been that it didn't play so well on mobile devices, right? It worked okay for Macs and PCs, but not mobile devices. Frameless came out, I want to say the middle of last year, like suddenly in version 2019, it was there, and it kind of pushed WebHelp out of the way. So I'm going to show you Frameless in case you all have never seen it. It's just awesome because I'm going to output Frameless with this content. So I'm going to basically double click Frameless, and I'm going to call this Data World, right? And I'm going to just let it go to the default outputs. I'm fine with that. I'm going to go to my layouts. I do have to pick one of the skins that comes with RoboHelp. So I'm going to choose this one called Dark. I kind of like it. I'm using everything on my phone now, everything dark mode, so that works for me as well. And I'm going to save, and I'm going to generate that output. And so I'm going to generate this content without any further ado. So I just generated Frameless. Now I'm going to view it, and I just want to show it to you. Well, you know what? It only did one little thing here. Let me redo my table of contents. So there it is. Well, it put one thing on there because I didn't redo my table of contents, but how beautiful is that? So you open it up, and it brings up this content. Now, let me get that out of the way. And I go to my author area, and I want to bring up my table of contents here and auto-create it real quick because I hadn't put that together. So I'll auto-create the table of contents. It's going to put all this lovely content in here. Maybe I'll get rid of these two. Don't need to have that in there. And I'm going to basically regenerate this thing so you can see it's going to have a little bit more on it. So let me come back to output and re-output, and then I'll view it and show it to you all. Here it comes. So here it is now with more stuff. And look, there's Charles. Charles, you have your own little tile. I will tell you all that all of these tiles, you can customize them very, very easily in RoboHelp. You can put your own graphics on here. You just got to make sure they're a specific size. But I just love the way this looks. This is basically an old thing I used to say about when things look really cool. It's not your father's Oldsmobile, which as much as Matt dated himself with that Ferris Bueller reference, I just dated myself with that commercial. This, if you use Frameless, this is not your father's help system. That looks awesome to me. It looks modern, it's hip, it's really cool. I think you ought to go with Frameless. Now that's the least of your concerns, right? Because you got to get your content in there. But hopefully what you've learned from me in the last, 30, 40 minutes is how to bring some of that content in. Hope you all enjoyed that. So Matt, I want to open this up to some questions, right? Because I kind of blew through a lot of this, and just in case there's some questions, and if you guys are wondering who I was and my craziness here, again, this is Kevin Siegel, and I'm based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Company's Icon Logic. Come check us out. Come check out some of my books on RoboHelp. You can find them on Amazon, etc. And having said that, what do we got, Matt? Any questions at all, or they want me just to stop talking?
Well, it wouldn't matter if you wanted to stop or not.
What do we got?
Wow, Kevin, that was right. That was a fast, passionate, quick, super cool ride. I really loved it. We have a lot of questions
Sure.
in the Q&A pod. Well, let me take the first one from Sunita Tiwari. How easy is it to convert from WebWorks to RoboHelp, or what's the best way to go about it?
Okay, WebWorks, that's another authoring tool, right? So I don't use WebWorks. Matt, maybe you have, but my understanding is, first of all, if it's HTML, you saw me import HTML files on the author tab with a right click, right? You come over here to your contents and you right click and you just bring in the HTML. So it doesn't matter where you get the content. If it's HTML, you right click it and you import it and in it comes, okay? So absolutely no problem doing that. But I do not use any. Now look, I've used some of the other tools over the years, but I would say in the last 15 years, pretty much have settled just on RoboHelp. You know, there's other great tools, but that's the one I've settled on. You guys have any feedback here on WebWorks?
I know that many years ago, WebWorks was even included with FrameMaker, WebWorks Publisher, actually, to publish HTML output. But it's also developed into a full authoring system, I think, editing platform. As long as it's HTML, as you said, you can import it. There might be proprietary stuff in it. Then this might need some special treatment. If not, it's just copy and pasting the topics into RoboHelp.
Yeah, that's also true. Now, one thing I do believe WebWorks, and the person who asked that question can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you can output to Microsoft Word, and if you can output to Microsoft Word, what you just saw me do is I took it from Microsoft Word right back into RoboHelp. If you want, that'd be a great way to do it. So I would advise, though, if you're going to do that, clean up that text. Watch out for those manual paragraph formatting overrides.
Right. And then there's a question, is it possible to use Adobe RoboHelp offline? Is something Veronica Zdanova would like to know. It depends a little bit on what exactly you mean with offline. What you see here on the screen from Kevin is a desktop version, sort of offline. It's not a browser-based thing that happens in the browser. You don't need to be connected to the internet. However, RoboHelp has certain functionalities that require to be online, like, for example, the online review, where you do a full review process in the browser. And, of course, you want to publish your content somewhere online, usually, like in such a help system that Kevin showed. So for these kind of things, you need to be online in a way. And you might want to invite reviewers to the review process, and RoboHelp triggers emails to the reviewers and stuff like that. So for all these functionalities, you need to be online, or let's say connected to the internet. And from time to time, RoboHelp, as it's a subscription software, connects to the Adobe licensing server to check if your license is still valid and if your subscription is still running. So for these things, you need to be online. So completely offline is a little bit more difficult. There's a special offline version for military and stuff like that. But otherwise, you need to have an internet connection. Put it that way.
Stefan, I had another potential interpretation of that question. A lot of times when Kevin and I teach RoboHelp classes, we get questions about whether the RoboHelp output needs to be loaded on a web server. And that's while it's excellent at doing things that will be loaded on web servers like web pages, you can also publish to a system that might go onto somebody's local hard drive or even onto their mobile device. So the output itself you can choose whether to post it on a device or whether to make it available online via a network connection or internet connection. So it's just a question of whether, we can go back into the Q&A pod and see if that answered the question directly.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of companies who ship such an online help in a local installation of a special medicine tool, medical device or stuff like that is not connected to the internet. So the output doesn't need to be hosted online. It can also be hosted disconnected from the internet.
Right, but from a user perspective, using the tool to create content and output the content, it's very rare that you have to be on the internet. I think the only exception might be the licensing when you log in, because I subscribe to all this stuff. So it's going to say, hey, log in. But I do believe if you pull the internet cable, there have been some tools in the past where they've had some trouble and they say pull the cable and continue to work. But I imagine at some point you keep that thing off the internet, it's going to say, wait a minute, we got to check this subscription at some point. So you've got a limited time before it's going to check again to make sure you've got a valid license.
Right. But if you really think deeper into these things, what you do with HTML-based and CSS-based content, web content, so to say, you might have web fonts that you want to use, Google Fonts. For that, you need to be online. You might want to link images that are hosted somewhere on a server into your help project. If you're offline, you cannot see them. You see that missing image graphic. So there are a lot of scenarios where you actually need to be online if you are in a modern scenario, so to say, if you create content for the web. So that's a more complex question. It depends really on the use case. But for the use itself of RoboHelp, you don't need to be online. And it's not a browser solution, to emphasize that again. There's a question from June Harton. Once you import the Microsoft Word document, is it only using the styles from the CSS and no Word styles, right?
Okay, great question. So if you take a look at the document that I just threw together here, the holiday schedule, it is in fact using a cascading style sheet based on what RoboHelp interpreted was the formatting that was being used in Microsoft Word. So it does indeed use a cascading style sheet from the import process. So all of my other topics might be using one called default.css. This one's using holidayschedule.css. However, during the import process, I can tell RoboHelp to use default.css instead of that holiday schedule CSS. So basically, whatever the name of the document is that you bring in from RoboHelp, from Word, it'll make a cascading style sheet to match that Word document name. But you can modify that as you see fit. One thing I would note about linking to that content, because I kind of feel like that was something that resonated. What you have to have the discipline not to do is come into your topic and start making changes here as a RoboHelp author. Because if you're going to commit to linking back to the Microsoft Word content, the idea is either you're doing a lot of that authoring in Microsoft Word, which is not typical in my experience. My experience there is that subject matter expert who is feeding into the server and making changes. You could imagine that you've made some changes here, right? You've come in here and started deleting content. And then Matt is my subject matter expert, and he remotely has made changes. These are coming in direct conflict. And what tends to happen is when I bring in Matt's changes, I completely lose all of my changes. And now I'm like, I don't even know who made the more relevant changes. And in the world that I am most involved in, the subject matter experts' changes override the changes the help author made. So you want to have the discipline not to make the changes. And maybe you would just say to yourself, I'm not going to do any editing to these topics inside these folders here that are linked. You see what I'm saying? So you want to avoid doing that so you don't have some horrible conflict.
Right.
What else we got?
There's a question about translation management. Is there a plugin for managing translations in RoboHelp? I answered that with in the latest 2020 release, there is full translation management support in RoboHelp, including showing you which files are not in sync in previously stated outputs and so on, and including full XLIF 1.2 support, which becomes even better with the next way. I worked on that with a developer myself. Really exciting stuff to come there. So that is it, and there is this. And it's not an external plugin or something. It's embedded there.
Yeah.
Matt?
There was so there's one that Kevin can confirm for us. When importing the HTML, I don't believe there is a way to split topics on headings, correct?
No.
It's just import the HTML.
Yeah,
That's
so
Word.
when you import HTML, it just brings it in, and I'll bring one of these files in again. Let me go ahead and delete a couple of these. Sorry, Debbie, I'm gonna take you out of here, and just to clear up some of my topics here. So I'll just delete some of these and I'll bring them back in. So when you bring in HTML files, it doesn't ask you anything about CSS or anything. It's just going to bring it in. So I'm going to go ahead and import HTML again. And I'm just going to find one, even if it already exists, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to bring in absence, which I believe absentee policy is already here. So it should ask me if I want to replace it. It didn't, but okay. So it just brought it in, done.
Without a
So there's
dialog
no
box.
way to, without a dialog box, no options, no nothing. And the thing about it is when you bring in the topic, if the person who gave it to you didn't format it with heading ones and heading twos and all of the HTML tags, the analogy I like to use is junk in, junk out. So this absentee policy is the one I just imported. It doesn't even know what style sheet it's supposed to follow. It doesn't know where the headings are. So the first thing I do here is apply my cascading style sheet that I want. And I'm just picking default.css because it's available to me. So now CSS has now been defined. And now I'll come over here to this one particular paragraph like this one, and I'll go to my styles tab and I have to assign heading one. Well, I assigned it to the whole document. I guess that was all one big paragraph. So whoops. Yeah, it was all one big paragraph. So I'm not going to worry about it. So if I click paragraph, there you go. That took care of that. What I tell people to do if they're going to be importing HTML files, it would really speed up the process for you if the person who gave it to you defined where these heading ones and heading twos are supposed to be. So when you bring them in, it's just pure HTML. It's going to be done. The problem is people who give it to you may not know HTML. So they may not know how to format it. And I think more than anything, content for me is king. I'd rather have you give me the content in its ugliest format and I'll make it look pretty. I'll add the graphics and everything to it, but I need the content. And maybe I'm not a writer, so I need to worry about getting the content. And once I have that, I'm golden. So the content's king here, no matter where you get it.
Yep.
Okay, great. We have about 10 minutes left, so we still have a little bit of time to answer some question.
I will tell you, by the way, Stephen, one thing I forgot to do here was the PDF thing, because I have a lot of people bringing in PDFs, and so I've got one here. So let me just show you this real quick. Then I think you said, Matt, there was a question there. So I'm going to right click, and I'm going to link to import a file, actually. Trying to get control of my mouse. And I actually have a PDF of my RoboHelp book, so it's no small PDF. So you're probably wondering, how did I get that, right? So it actually now bought the whole PDF in. So now that can be added to my table of contents. So if I go to my table of contents, I can actually now make sure that PDF is included. Now, unfortunately, I did get rid of Debbie. I'm so sorry, Debbie. Let me get rid of, it's a broken link now, Sam as well. But now, if I auto create that table of contents, that PDF is going to be included now in my book. So you can definitely include PDFs in your project just by bringing them into RoboHelp, and they'll output just beautifully. So, all right, what you said there was another question there, Matt?
Well, Kevin, since you're driving, have you played around with the localization features in 2020?
Not really. No.
Okay.
Haven't had a chance.
If you look down below in the lower left-hand corner, you've got a translations option. So
sure.
Veronica had asked if there was a plugin for managing translations. So that would be going into that translations option down there allows you to effectively create mirror projects for your localized versions. And also, this is the serious nutshell version of it. Allow you to help package up. I believe Stefan creates the XLIFs from RoboHelp and then allows you to send it to either machine translation or to a translation service.
No, I just want to let you know, Matt, that while you were saying that, I went and I clicked Dutch, and next thing you know, the whole hard drive got
There you
erased.
go.
So I just want you to know
No, it's not.
that
Yeah,
that it's working on something here. But I chose Dutch, and I must tell you
it's
all, I
good, but
don't
it ain't
speak
gonna be
Dutch.
Dutch, right?
Exactly. So I don't speak Dutch. I just pretend that I do. So I was kind of curious to see what it would do. And the first thing
But
you did was gave me an application error, but then it seems like it's working on something.
yeah,
I don't
and
know.
then
I've never played around with the translation at all.
and I'm making sure I'm not crossing between FrameMaker and RoboHelp on these two services. But I believe with RoboHelp, Stefan, we have the ability to log into a machine translation service and have it done on the fly.
You can do that. So in the background, RoboHelp creates XLIF 1.2. And that XLIF file can be imported into pretty much any translation tool like Trados, etc. And across Namuku and so. Or you can connect with a machine translation service like we have a couple of them implemented, like Microsoft Machine Translator, Google Translate, Yandex Translate. So there are a couple of them integrated, and you can also integrate other machine translation systems as long as you have, for example, an API key from them, and so. So there are pretty comprehensive possibilities. I'm not sure if it would work with out of the box with the project that Kevin has created here, because he linked in, for example, a big PDF into it, and PDF cannot be converted to XLIF, of course. So there might be some configuration, and you might exclude some files from the translation process because the PDF needs to be handled separately then, or from the source content. But yeah, there's a full translation management system built in.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question from June Harton. Is the underlying code for frameless format HTML? Yes, it is. It's HTML5.
Yep.
And then also, Aaron's correct. If you inadvertently change the name of a linked Word document, that will cause you pain and suffering in terms of linking your Word docs to your RoboHelp project.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's rush a little bit through the remaining questions because there are a lot of them. And
I see Jared's comment, the bane of demos, because I hit that button and now my RoboHelp's sort of like saying, I didn't like that you did that. And Matt, by the way, this freeze here is your fault. You said click translation, so I did. And next thing you know, kablooey. Thanks a lot. What's that message say? Hard drive erased. Oh, that's lovely. I'm just kidding. It doesn't say that. Just kidding. But I saw Jared's note and I thought that was funny.
Good. Then we have a question from Chuck Martin. Does your Zendesk guide output allow people to edit in ZDG and have those changes synchronized with RoboHelp? And have those changes
that does not go in that direction.
RoboHelp.
Yeah. So you edit within RoboHelp and then we publish to Zendesk. Same thing with Salesforce, is my understanding, so that you don't have the ability to go in and use Zendesk and or Salesforce to edit that content. You're publishing to that instance of Salesforce. You're publishing to that instance of Zendesk, and you have to have a folder structure that mimics what exists in your Salesforce and your Zendesk implementation.
Right. Okay. Then we have a question. How does context-sensitive help work in linked documents from Anuradha Kupasamy?
That's a great question. And now context-sensitive help out of FrameMaker can be done. Context-sensitive help out of Word, that is a real interesting question. I have not tried it with
I haven't either.
Out of Word. How fantastic.
CSH, I don't know how you would mark the CSH in Word. If it's, I didn't see that question, but
that's an awesome question. I'd give that person Stephen bucks for that one, and I don't know the answer to it. So, Stephen, do you? I mean, if you're going to do context-sensitive help to a linked document, which is making the topics, it is making the HTML. So, in theory, you could assign a map ID to it. But the concern I would have is the topic gets deleted from the Word document and
then you CSH breaks.
And now you got a broken map ID. So let's see. So Kelly says repeat. I don't know what that is.
I would say it's. I wouldn't exactly go for context-sensitive help with purely linked documents, probably.
Yeah, and that's a good. The bottom line is, whoever asked that question, now I got to try it. Now I got to try it to see what happens if, and I just suspect that could lead to some pain points with broken map IDs. So you just discovered a use case where it's not going to be perfect in all circumstances unless the map IDs would resolve themselves. I can't imagine.
Certainly you want to pay attention to it as you go through and play around with it.
Kelly, the question that was being asked there, it was being asked, can we repeat that, was what happens in a linked document if you're doing context-sensitive help with those map IDs? So you're linking to a Word document. The Word document, when it comes to RoboHelp, is making those HTML files. Now you start assigning map IDs to those topics. That should be okay. And as long as you don't take that content out of Word, so now it basically no longer just in RoboHelp. I mean, that's when you start breaking those map IDs. So in theory, what I heard Stephen say, even though we've never tried it, those map IDs should be perfectly fine.
Yeah, because it's that you're not changing the map file.
Correct.
Right.
It's just what happens if the subject matter expert just takes that content out of there. It's like, whoops, now you got a problem with a broken.
You might have a link that goes to a topic that doesn't pertain, right?
Right.
So that'd probably be your worst risk, the way I'm reading it, at least.
Yeah.
There's a question. A couple of more questions. I will answer them, and maybe Kevin, you can also have a look at the Q&A pod if you want to stay a few longer with us.
He can put his bottle back up on the desk and go over to the Q&A pod for a while.
There are a lot of more questions. We will not be able to answer them as we have just 2 minutes left before the closing keynote. But one question is, I think, interesting from Chuck Martin. The review and collaboration topic says that the Creative Cloud desktop is required. I'm wondering why, especially because the reviewer section suggests that they just need to use a browser. So the reviewer really just needs the browser, the person who's doing the review. However, if you want to use certain functionalities, there was a discussion about exactly that topic in the community forum of RoboHelp just last week or so, or the week before. I think you need the bottom line is you can work without the Creative Cloud app, but for certain functionalities, I think you need to have the Creative Cloud Cloud app.
Stefan,
and I think it's somehow related to the online review. Chuck, maybe you can write us an email at techcom@adobe.com, and there we can have the support look at the exact details when or how it's needed.
Stefan, I think it's because the review uses the document cloud.
Yeah, I think so too. That was my first take, that it's somehow related to the online review and needed for that. But I'm not 100% sure. Actually.
Yeah,
I would need to look it up myself. Okay, good. And with that, I stop the recording and say thank you again so much for this really cool, quick ride, and for the Boban 14 on your table. So
thanks, Kevin.
That was really fun.
I'm willing to share. So
thanks for joining us.
Oban 14, it's the best. I got to tell you. Not that I imbibe. I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
So you've been told.
And we have, for all those who are interested in RoboHelp, and I see there's a lot of interest here today, we have 2 more sessions at DataWorld about RoboHelp. We have one tomorrow, same time slot, from Val Swisher and Regina about chatbots and micro-content. And we have one on Thursday with Wartim La, our solution consultant. So there are 2 more big opportunities for you guys to look into the new RoboHelp and ask questions and so on. I will make sure that tomorrow.
Chatbots are cool. You guys should check that out. They're really cool.
That is really cool. Yeah.